Hey guys, it's Cassie. Welcome back to my channel. So I have a flip through for you guys today. This was a custom order. Really fun project for me. So I was sent this book cover and like a handful of supplies, mostly like vintage ephemera from Chris's family. So it was just a really cool project, and such an honor to work with things that were very special to her. And it was just a huge honor to do that and to be able to work with those things. So hopefully I've created something that she likes and will treasure for years to come. And so yeah, I want to do a flip through with you guys and just kind of show you what I've made. Okay, so this is, as I said, a vintage book cover, and I had to refinish the spine. So I rebuilt the inside of the book, and I've just attached this flap, I guess, with some vintage lace that she sent me. So this is like crocheted lace, and I've just used this buckle as a closure, which is something that I've never really done before, so this was kind of experimental to me, but I like how it turned out. So yeah, the signatures are stitched directly onto the spine, which I have reinforced on the inside, and I'll show you guys that here in a second. Just on the outside here, I've attached some sari silk and this vintage trim. I'll show you up close. So it is like beaded trim, and I did have to like repair it. Some of the beads were falling off, but I loved having that little detail on the outside cover. And then inside, I've just tucked in this thing that she sent me. I originally planned to put it in the pages, but it turned out to be such a chunky journal that I just thought I would add it to the outside. And I've just attached this other little piece of beaded trim, and it's just tied around, so it's not attached permanently. She can take it off. But those were things that she sent me to use. She has a very chunky journal. So this kind of serves a double purpose of tying everything together and squishing her down a little bit. So the dimensions are about 5.5 by 5.5 by 8. And then the spine itself is about 2.25 inches, and then like fully wide open about 4.25. So yeah, pretty chunky journal. Okay, so on the outside here, I have pressed some wildflowers. So many of you guys know that I'm from Texas, and Chris originally, well, I don't know if she's always lived in Texas, but she did live in Texas until recently, and she requested Texas wildflowers, so I just picked these and pressed them. She requested bluebonnets, but yeah, I kind of missed the bluebonnets this year due to my hospitalization, and yeah, they just kind of bloomed while I was MIA, so I did not get any this year, which makes me sad because that's like my favorite wildflower. Anyway, so I just pressed them and then made like this specimen sample, I guess, and stitched it together, and I just love how that turned out. Yeah, so, and then I added a backing because the cover itself is quite ornate, and you kind of lost the wildflowers in all the ornate detail on the cover. So but it kind of serves as a tuck spot too. So inside I've just tucked in this little film negative that she sent of, it looks like a child sitting in a tree. I don't know if you can see that on camera. Okay. And then this is actually a little pocket that kind of floats, and I tucked in this journaling card that I made from this really pretty bias tape packaging that she sent me. So I just added on some lined note card on the back, and then there is a vintage pin ticket there, a pin tag. I don't know what they're called exactly. I thought that was a nice little detail. So then, let's see if I can get this to flatten out any. Okay, so going inside, I have used the original library pocket, which I was able to salvage from the original inside lining. Sorry if you guys can hear Bojangles, that's my goat. He's a baby, and he kind of cries a little bit because he's lonely, but he's just like right outside my window. Anyway, so I've salvaged the original library pocket here and just tucked in this little image of some flowers. So this is very much like botanical, but also still kind of eclectic, which is something that you guys know I love. Just like fitting in things that kind of coordinate and not necessarily in the full theme of the journal. This was original or vintage stationery that she sent me. And then I've just attached this little Victorian calling card there. I've added in this matchbook that she sent me, just as a little tuck spot there, and made a journaling card out of this vintage broom label. And I did not want to do anything to this broom label because it is so gorgeous just on its own. So that's very plain, but I think it's beautiful on its own. So then I've got this big tip-in that I used like some vintage sheet. I just love that flower pattern, so I wanted to use that somewhere. I've tucked in this vintage photo of a little girl with her shovel and pail. And it just looks like she's about to go do some gardening, so I thought that was pretty. And then a recipe card, which is a Gwen Frostic print on a recipe card. And then on this page, I just tucked in a few little things that she could use for collaging. So this is actually just a little tag that's been punched out of a vintage music book page. Just make sure I'm in frame here. Okay. Yeah. And the rest is just like vintage book page and a notepad paper. So yeah, those just tuck in there, and she can use them however she likes. Something different that I did this time, I added in these. They're from a vintage photo album, but I thought they were just really nice, like, what's the word? I can never think of the word. The plastic. Oh, well, I don't remember what it's called. Anyway, just a clear plastic window, and I think that that works really nicely with kind of a botanical theme, because you can add in some florals or, you know, make some specimen samples in these pockets. And then I've just crafted this little vintage postcard, which is actually a real photo postcard, and I just thought that was beautiful, so this can go in this pocket. Okay, and then this is just a vintage book page here, and I've just added on this giant little pennant that she sent me, and just clipped it on with a little bulb pen there. And then on this side, I've added in this poem about sharing and how God made us to, like, gifts us things so that we can share them with others. And then there is some like little ledger sheet, like little, it's long and skinny, but almost perfect for this size of journal. And then this was actually a little envelope that she sent me, but it was not with this package, or with this journal supply kit that she sent me. But I wanted to just craft this using some things that, like, it was already stamped and kind of coffee stained, but I just thought I would craft it to fit with this journal too. So she sent me this little garment label and the little secretary's hand cleaner but I didn't know what to do with this, but I did want to include it in the journal, so I just tucked it inside this envelope. And then this is just a little booklet that I made from book pages from this Backroads of Texas book that I have, and it's just like these illustrated images from around Texas. So yeah, really, really beautiful paintings, really. So there's one of like a longhorn standing in a field and redbud trees, which just bloom everywhere around here. This is actually of a barn in the middle of the woods, and it's got these maps of Texas. And so I just thought that was really cool way to include some things from Texas in this journal. So that just clips on here, and I did make this into like an altered paper clip. So that just holds on there. And then on this side, I've included some of the papers that she sent me to use. These were just like leftover scraps that I had, but I still wanted to include them in the journal, so they just became a little tag medley that she can rip off and use as collage pieces elsewhere in the journal. I am trying to go quickly, but there is a lot to go through in this journal. So, and then on this page, I've just tucked in this little pattern paper tag. And this is gorgeous ledger paper. Yeah, I've just folded over the excess, which I did a lot in this journal. Because the dimensions of the page worked well for that. So I've just folded over pages and made pockets out of them, rather than adding in more bulk with like another book page or another pattern paper or something. So this is actually a tuck spot here. Just grab a tag. So that's that. She sent me this beautiful lace. And I believe it's silk. I think it's made out of silk, but I just wanted to add like a little tip-in ruffle or a tab at the top there. And then that's a little pocket there. And then here's another little pattern paper tag that she can use to journal on the back. Okay, so here is a big tag that I made. And it's just a collage tag, and I used this vintage matchbook cover that she sent me, and I love this picture of, this is a vintage photo of like a big house hidden in the woods, and I just think that's so pretty for a journal like this. And then I've just backed it with this vintage railroad form here. So that just clips on there. This is actually a tuck spot, but I left it empty just so I wouldn't hide the background on that beautiful tag. Some vintage lined paper, another little tuck spot there. Here's the other side of that, like ledger account form. This is a vintage envelope. It's actually antique. It's from 1896. And I've just included the letter that came inside, handwritten, and it's just beautiful. It's got a watermark on it, and it's lined, and the handwriting is just gorgeous. So that just tucks in right there. And this is actually a double tuck spot, but the envelope is very, very fragile, so I did not tuck anything inside the second little tuck spot there. Here is the other side of that photo album page. And I've just tucked in a piece from an actual vintage photo album, another one, and it's just this waterfall coming through like a mountainous woods, and then there are these really old cars parked right there, and I just love these photos like this. So, but it was super stuck to the page, so I just left it on the page and clipped out a piece and put it in. And then here is an illustration of a home in Highland Village, Texas. So I just added some trim and just let this have its own moment, you know. I didn't really do much to it. I think it's really beautiful by itself. So, and then I've just tucked in some pattern paper in the back. And behind that, there is little collage that I made with a vintage seal and some ledger paper there. It's just a really simple page, but I think sometimes like we just need to let the paper do its thing and be pretty on its own, and we don't really need to do much to it. But I mean, all these things really go well together, I think. Oh, I clipped this here. So yeah, that's just some pattern paper there. And then some journaling space and more journaling space, more. I did want to leave a lot of, well, for two reasons. Like the journal itself is very, very chunky, just naturally. But also I wanted a lot of like writing space for her. So even this, like you can journal over the top of that, I think. And then on this side, I've just made a belly band out of some of that paper that she sent me. And I used this little calling card, which is very, it's a different shape than I'm used to seeing, but I've just used a brad to attach this film negative of a woman standing next to a car. And then in the background, she sent me a vintage check that was way too big to fit in the journal, so I just like shrunk it down and used the copy of it. But I thought that was just a nice little piece to include to use for collage elsewhere or journal on the back. And then here is the end of the first signature. So I've got two more to go. Okay, so this is handmade paper that I got from Rose Hill Cottage. Rose Hill. I'll link her shop in the description box. I'm horrible with names. Anyway, Heather made this paper, and I just thought the green little flecks in it works so well with this journal. And then I've just stitched on Rose Hill Paper Cottage. There we go. I've stitched on this fussy cut that I made from a vintage book page. Just tore off this little paper here, and just I love the layered look here that creates. And then a big ruffle here. All of the trims and linens that I've used in this book are vintage, except for the few little pieces of sari trim that I've used. And then on this page, I have added in a vintage postcard of some roses, and it does have a lovely green, like kind of metallic background. And yeah, so I've just stitched on some lace up here And on this, I have made a little tag medley. So this is one of my wallpaper tags that you can get for free from my Patreon. So even if you're not a patron, go to my Patreon and just look for, it's under the tag of Free Fridays or Friday Digital Fridays, I think. But it's there for everyone. And then this is just another pattern paper tag that I made. Clip everything back on. Okay. Just make sure I'm still on frame. Okay, so then this is like a vellum sheet that I got from a Gwen Frostic book, and it actually has like a spider web, and it's green. So I thought that was just a really cool piece to include in this journal too. And then this is just pattern paper there. I've clipped on this vintage photo of these rock structures. I forget what they're called. Anyway, vintage photo there. And then this was a book page from this book. She sent me a few, and I just crafted them into like little journaling cards, and used some vintage wallpaper down here. So this is authentic vintage wallpaper there. And then on this page, I've created this little tuck spot. This ledger had this really cool stamp right here. So I've created this tuck spot, but I used vintage twine to just hold that shut instead of gluing it or stitching it or something. And those are just really kind of neat, hanging out the side of the journal. Some vintage book pages, some graph paper, and Tim Holtz paper. And I've just stitched on this vintage key that she sent me in the package, and it just had this really cool string attached to it. So I just left it the way I found it and just stitched it right onto the tab. And then on the back, she can journal there. This is another little tuck spot. So these papers were really long, and I just folded them up and used them that way. And then here I have created this tag journaling card so she can journal on the back. But I love this little flower illustration, and so I wanted to use it to make a tag, and she sent me this button card. So I've just created this tuck spot out of the button card and tucked in that little journaling prompt thing. And then I've just stitched on this gold kind of metallic fabric here. And then a big fabric or a lace tip in there. This is like a little tiny page, but I made a pocket on the back or on this side, and I've just tucked in some receipt paper, so it's like a duplicate set. Yeah. And then this is a Gwen Frostic page, which I just thought this was so pretty. Lots of journaling space, obviously, and then just this little print of like a little seedling popping up out of the dirt. And then this obviously is the other side of that Gwen Frostic page. This is another little tiny pocket, and I think I might actually just leave that tag in there. Some more journaling space, more journaling space. This is another pocket. Grab another of those tags. So there. And then this is another little tag medley I made out of a card that she sent me. So it's like a little account card, I guess. And then I've just used one of Johanna Kloff's vintage doilies printable, and I've just made a tuck spot on the front and the back. So that's just kind of folded over the edge. And then this is another of my wallpaper tags. Again, those are for free. Anyone can use them. More journaling space, journaling space. vintage book page. Here's the other side of that ledger, which I left this one open so she can fold it out if she wants. This is another of those vintage doilies. And then this was the envelope that came with the pink stationery, this pink stationery. But I've just crafted it. I think I saw Sheena at Luna Rosu do eyelets in an envelope like this, kind of an altered envelope. And then I've just tucked in some pieces for her to use. These came with the package she sent me, and then this was just from a Texas almanac that I had. And it's just a map of Republic of Texas. I think they're, oh, it has a lining. Okay, that explains it. So yeah, that just clips on right here. Okay, here's the other side of that vellum sheet. This is another little pocket there. And then on the back, I've just created a tuck spot out of this vintage postcard that was postage paid. And then I've just punched the edge to kind of create this like lacy pattern. And I just love how that looked. So it kind of created like this little border tab on this page. And then here is another of those book pages that she sent me. And I have just made another little journaling card out of it. And then here's another vintage photo of a waterfall in the woods. And some journaling space here. And then again with the journaling space, this is actually a little tuck spot that came from that handmade paper that was on the front of the signature. I believe this is like bookbinders paper or wallpaper, but it's flocked. So it's got this really pretty black flocking around the edge of the purple. Just kind of creates this floral pattern on it. And then this is a little booklet that I made. I used another of those photo album pages to make that. So this is just a little booklet that I made out of a note card that she sent me. And I've just like bound it together with a 3-point pamphlet stitch and added in some ledger paper and one of the book pages she sent me. Yeah, so just a little booklet. Clips over the edge like this. And then here is a tuck spot, a double tuck spot, like one on the front and the back, that I made from a Edith Holden book page. I just tucked in this vintage postcard here. And then this was a card that she sent me, but I did nothing to it. It's so beautiful on its own. And then I've just included this little stamped vintage book page and an accompanying minor tag that she sent me. And I just added some vintage twine to that. And then here's some more Tim Holtz paper. And that just flips open. This is the only ruffle that I added to the whole journal. But I love this red paisley pattern on this paper. This was something that she sent me to use in this journal, and it's like this net material, and it's embroidered. So I just clipped out a piece that was large enough to do like a big tip in and leave like the edge kind of ruffle, or a big tab, I guess. Anyway, so that's just a big tip-in that I made with that pretty net fabric that she sent me. And I've just tucked in this vintage receipt, which is like a very tissue-like paper. It has some handwriting and typewritten text on it. And then this was another vintage button card that she sent me, and I've just added on this piece of lace, and I have like secured the buttons a little bit better, so I pulled the string tight on all the buttons so they're not going anywhere, and just taped it to the back with a piece of washi. So that's how you can do a little button card repair without like having it's really simple to do. So if you have a button card where the buttons are kind of loose, if the string is still attached, it's pretty easy to repair it. So but she can journal behind this. All of these things are removable, so she can journal behind this, and this is just a really pretty overlay over that page. And then some more journaling space on the back here. Yeah. Okay, so then on this page, I've included this wallpaper pocket, and I added in this business card that she sent me for a saloon, and inside it's just blank, but I used it as kind of like a closure for the envelope, and then the back has this really pretty flower, and that's like the pattern on the wallpaper. And then I thought this was the perfect place to include this, but it's one of those IRS distillery forms. It's right there. And then this is a vintage French or antique French document, and it has these really pretty embossed seals. And the handwriting is really lovely. It's got a kind of a watermark to it. Anyway, it's just really pretty paper, and the handwriting is gorgeous too. And then this was a piece that I got in a Happy Mail, and I believe it's like a jelly print of like these leaves, so that was kind of neat to include in this journal. And it's a really nice heavy paper, so that's nice for journaling. This is a big fabric page that I made out of this kind of net material. I love this, but I'm almost out of this material. This was a vintage business letter, which it had this really cool map on the back. And then this is another big pocket here. And some Edith Holden book page, which July is my birth month, and I love this page. I was hoarding it for a long time, but I thought I would include it in Chris's journal because she's special. And I just love this little flower peeking out. This is more vintage French ephemera. Whatever ink they used to stamp this actually bled a lot over the years, so that's kind of a neat effect there. And it has this hole in it. It's so cool. And then another Gwen Frostic page, which I love this purple flower. And I've just clipped on this vintage playing card that Chris sent me. So yeah, I love doing custom orders, and I absolutely love like working with things that you send me. So if you have things that you want to be turned into a journal, but you're like too nervous to do it yourself, or you want someone else to do it, I'm happy to do that. And I do try to like preserve the things, not like cut them up or, you know, destroy them in any way, but kind of honor the things and turn them into a piece of art. So okay, so the other side of that French document and the other side of the Edith Holden book page. Here's the other side of that big pocket there. And then this is the other side of that business document there. And that has a big pocket, or a pocket on the side. There's that. And then this folds out a little bit. Lots of journaling space in the back. And then here I've just added in this journaling card, again with the vintage wallpaper on the bottom. Big lace ruffle here. Some journaling space. And again, this folds out like that and folds out here. And then that is some journaling space there. I love this. I love this Tim Holtz paper pad. The Wallflowers, I think is what it's called. And it just fits so perfectly with like a vintage botanical journal. So journaling space. And she sent me this little sweet lace trim that was clipped from like a blue dress or something, but it had the blue still attached to it, and I just love that, so I just used it as is. And then here is the back of that photo album page, and I've just made this gosh, if I can get it off, this safe deposit box key envelope, and I don't know if these keys came with it, but they say president on it, and there were 2 of them, so I tucked one inside the envelope and then tied the other around the twine that I wrapped around the envelope. And I've just made another little altered paper clip. But the closure on this envelope is so cool. It's like a snap. So obviously the twine can be just taken off, and it just snaps open. So cool. But I did not want to do anything permanent to this coin envelope, so even the paper clip is just clipped on over the edge. So that just clips on to the page like this, and it kind of helps keep this vintage photo that I've tucked in here in place. So it's just this lady standing in her garden. And here is the other side of that wallpaper, I think. And then this is something that Chris sent me to use in this journal. And I've just closed it with this string, also something she sent me. But I didn't want to do anything to it. I stitched to the envelope and like glued on this stamp that, or seal that she sent me. But I really did not do much to this because it was just so lovely on its own. It's like this order booklet or catalog, I guess. So yeah, that's fully intact still, and it has the label or the address and the stamp from being postmarked in 1911. So yeah, that's really lovely just by itself. So I just wrapped this around it. So yeah, that's the journal. Really long video. I'm sorry guys, but there was just so much in this journal, and it was such a pleasure to work on, and I hope that she loves it and will enjoy it for years to come. But yeah, thanks for watching guys. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I have been really trying to post videos more frequently, and I will have several other custom order videos coming soon. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you in my next video.